Hi there, I'm Naomi Morse, and I grew up in southern Vermont. And I got my child's fiddle in 2002 and was very excited to be able to join Childsplay. And I grew up in the contra dance world, and I got into fiddling through contra dance music. And one of the things that contra dance music does is take music from a lot of different genres. And one of the things that I grew to get very excited about in terms of learning how to play fiddle and learning tunes from different genres was what made each genre sound like that genre. How can you play a French Canadian tune and make it sound like a French Canadian tune? How can you play an Irish tune and make it sound like an Irish tune? And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about 4 different genres: French Canadian, Irish, old time, and Swedish. Which, I don't know everything about any of those genres, but I have been excited to figure out what makes those genres sound like them. Okay, so before I go into specific genres, I want to talk about a few main points that I've identified about similarities and differences in the bowings across these 4 genres. So the first one is how much your bow stays on the string, whether it's bouncing up and down or whether it's quite smooth. So for example, you have that's quite bouncy. And then I'm just going to play the same tune in a smooth style. So that's the same tune. It happens to be a French Canadian tune, but you can play it in both ways. So that's one point. The next one is how much pulse you have in the bow, and this one comes more when you have long notes, sort of whether you're gonna just play your note straight or whether you're gonna have some pulsing into it. So that's the pulsing, and that the pulsing happens more in old time and Swedish music, but there's a bit of it in the other genres as well. And then the third point is how much air you have between the notes, and that is it's different than bounce. It's a hard point to really put to words, but it's the difference between, let's say I'm going to try and play with not much air. So that's sort of straight ahead, not very much air. And this is the same tune with some air. So I wasn't really getting that bouncy there, but I was putting air in between the notes. And how I think about it, you're at the end of the notes, you're not actually taking the bow off the string, but you are letting up the pressure, slowing down the bow, and almost taking the bow off the string before you change direction, and this is something that you find in all the genres, in part because I think it is what helps make music danceable. And all of these genres, the tunes I'm going to play today, are dance tunes of one sort or another, and I think putting this air into those tunes is part of what makes it danceable. So the first genre I'm going to talk about is French Canadian, Québécois, from Quebec in Canada, and that genre is quite bouncy. And I think before I get too much into it, I'm going to play the tune. This is a tune called Le Diable Vert, the Green Devil. So that's Le Diable Vert, and as you can see, I'll slow down the A part a little bit and talk about some of the specifics that I'm doing. And one way to get into playing French Canadian music, if you haven't done a lot of it, is to just play single bows. That is, a lot of French Canadian players don't slur very much, and I think that's a way to get into it if you haven't done it very much. Okay, so let me play the tune a little slower now, and so you can see what I'm actually doing with the bow to make it have such a bouncy feel. So the rhythm that happens a lot in these French Canadian reels is one that goes sort of yep ba da da yep ba da da yep ba da da yep ba da da, and that is, your bow is actually coming off the string. So you have a real, bouncy feel to it, and that bounce can also happen when you slur. So you can do sort of two up bows at this in the middle of that bounce. So let me try and do that. So it happened once in there. So that's how you can put that bounce into slurring and make it less just back and forth, because that can get a bit monotonous. So another aspect about these bowings is how much air is there, and obviously bounce is a kind of air, and but you also want to put air at the end of some of the longer notes so that they're not full volume all the way to the end, to give it that dancey feel. So that last note, there weren't very many long notes in there, but that last note, you don't hold it very long. Now getting into the B part, another thing that's great about a lot of French Canadian tunes is the syncopation that you can get into. And there are also some longer notes in the B part, so you can see what the air is, how the air is getting incorporated into that. So let me play the B part slowly, so you can see some of the syncopation and where there's more air after the long notes. So B part and goes into E minor there. So this tune has the syncopation sort of built into it, but it's something that can be fun to put into a reel that doesn't always have it in the notes. You have your dutton da dutton da dutton dutton da dutton da da. So you have. There's the syncopation. So I'll play the tune one more time so you can see all of those different aspects in the tune one more time. Le Diable Vert. hope you've enjoyed this little overview of bowings in these 4 different genres, and I want to just go back over a few of the main points. So we've talked a lot about air, which happens in all the different genres, and it's something that really gives tunes a dancey feel. So you want to be sure to get that air in between the notes. You don't want to keep your bow on the string all the time. The other thing we talked a lot about is pulse, and making sure that when you're playing one long note, it's not just one long note. You're putting some beats into that long note. And then the other aspect is how much your bow is on the string. So whether it's bouncy, like in French Canadian tunes, or whether it's smoother, like in Irish or old time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this lesson, and it can help you in your exploration of figuring out how to play different genres of fiddle tunes, and how these different bowings help you get into the essence of each genre.